There is a discipline we often overlook. Not a discipline of the body, but of the heart. It is the discipline of forgiveness. We speak about forgiving others, about releasing anger, about letting go of grudges. Yet, how often do we turn this practice inward? How often do we offer forgiveness to ourselves? Every day we carry with us countless burdens of the past, mistakes, missed opportunities, words we regret, actions we wish we could change. And each day, if left unchecked, these burdens grow heavier. They become invisible chains, pulling us further away from freedom, away from clarity, away from peace. But forgiveness is not about erasing what happened. Forgiveness is about transformation. It is the art of not allowing yesterday's weight to define today's movement. To forgive yourself daily means you understand every sunrise is an invitation to start anew. Self-forgiveness is not weakness. It is strength. It is not avoidance. It is awareness. And it is not about pretending the wound is gone. It is about accepting the wound as part of the journey, while not letting it control where you go next. When you learn to forgive yourself daily, you stop fighting with yourself. You stop becoming your own enemy. You begin to move with greater ease, with greater compassion, and with greater discipline. Because the one who forgives himself also learns how to grow without resistance. When we speak about forgiveness, our first thought often travels outward, to the people who may have wronged us, to the circumstances that hurt us, or to the disappointments caused by others. But true forgiveness does not begin there. It begins within. If you look closely, you will realize that one of the greatest burdens you carry is not the memory of what others have done, but the memory of your own actions. It is the regret of what you could have done differently, the guilt of words spoken in haste, or the shame of failing to live up to your own expectations. This inner conflict is subtle, but it is powerful. Every time you revisit those memories without compassion, you tighten the grip of chains around yourself, and as long as you remain bound to those chains, forgiveness for others remains incomplete. The one who cannot forgive himself cannot truly walk in freedom, no matter how much he tries to release others. To understand why forgiveness begins within, you must reflect on how the human mind works. The mind is like a mirror, reflecting back everything that happens in life. But if the mirror is cracked with self-condemnation, every reflection becomes distorted. You begin to see yourself through the lens of failure, and soon you see others through that same lens. You may judge them harshly, because you judge yourself harshly. You may demand perfection from them because you secretly punish yourself for not being perfect. This is why the ancient teachings remind us, compassion for others begins with compassion for oneself. If the inner mirror is clean, you see the world more clearly. But if it is stained with shame and regret, everything around you becomes blurred. By forgiving yourself, you polish that mirror, you restore clarity, and from that clarity, kindness flows outward. Without this step, all attempts to forgive others remain partial, incomplete, and unstable. It is important to understand that forgiving yourself is not about forgetting or excusing your mistakes. To forgive yourself does not mean you pretend that nothing happened. It means you accept responsibility for what has happened, but you no longer let it poison your growth. A farmer who cuts his hand while working in the field does not keep opening the wound every day to punish himself. He treats it, he learns to be more careful, but he allows the wound to heal so he can continue his work. In the same way, the mistakes of yesterday are the wounds of the heart and mind. If you keep reopening them with guilt, they will never heal. Forgiving yourself is the medicine. It does not erase the scar, but it ensures the scar becomes part of your strength, rather than a source of weakness. In this way, self-forgiveness becomes a discipline of awareness. It is the recognition that you are not defined by the error itself, but by the way you rise from it. Every day you are faced with countless small opportunities to practice this. Perhaps you speak in anger to someone you love. Perhaps you miss a chance to act when you know you should have. Perhaps you find yourself wasting precious time. In each of these moments, the mind tends to collect guilt like dust on a surface. If you allow that dust to accumulate without cleaning it, soon you will no longer see clearly through the glass of your own life. But if at the end of each day you learn to forgive yourself, you wipe the surface clean, you acknowledge what has happened, you reflect on how to act differently tomorrow, and then you release the weight of today. In this way, forgiveness becomes a daily inner discipline, just as important as eating, breathing, or moving the body. Without it, the heart grows heavy, and the mind grows clouded. With it, you preserve your freedom, your clarity, and your strength. There is a simple truth that many people struggle to accept: the past cannot be changed. No matter how much we replay it in our minds, no matter how many times we imagine a different outcome, the past remains untouchable. It is like a stone that has already fallen into the river. The ripples may still spread, but the stone itself cannot be lifted back into the air. Yet, the human mind resists this truth. We hold on to memories, to regrets, to words we wish we had never spoken, or opportunities we wish we had taken. We cling to them as if by revisiting them enough times, we can alter their shape. But this endless revisiting becomes a prison. It drains energy from the present moment, energy that could be directed toward growth, change, and healing. The wisdom of forgiveness lies in recognizing this: you cannot change yesterday, but you have complete power over today. And if you use today wisely, you are already shaping tomorrow. The discipline of self-forgiveness is rooted in this understanding. Imagine a traveler who stumbles and falls while walking on a long path. He could sit there on the ground, cursing the stone that caused him to fall, replaying the moment of pain again and again in his mind. Or he could acknowledge the fall, learn to watch the path more carefully, and continue walking forward. The second traveler reaches his destination, while the first remains stuck at the place of his mistake. Many of us live like the first traveler. We remain stuck in the place of our mistakes, unable to move on, unable to let go. But life does not wait. Time continues to move forward. To forgive yourself is to recognize that though the fall has already happened, you still hold the choice of how you will walk from this moment onward. The past cannot be rewritten, but your response to it is still within your grasp. When we direct the present, we are not denying the past, we are transforming its meaning. Every mistake carries within it a lesson. Every regret carries within it an instruction. But you can only access those lessons if you stop punishing yourself and begin listening. The mind that is caught in guilt keeps asking, "Why did I do this?" But the mind that is free asks, "What can I learn from this?" That small shift in questioning transforms suffering into wisdom. It turns failure into guidance. This is why forgiveness is not indulgence. It is intelligent living. You take the unchangeable past and allow it to become a teacher, instead of allowing it to become a tormentor. This is how you direct the present, by standing firmly in the now, aware of yesterday, but not enslaved by it. In this way, the discipline of self-forgiveness is deeply practical. It gives you back the power of choice. Think of the body when it trains. A martial artist does not dwell endlessly on the punch he missed yesterday, or the mistake he made in last week's form. He studies it, he understands it, and then he moves back into practice with renewed awareness. If he clings to yesterday's failure, his body stiffens, his movements hesitate, and he robs himself of progress. But if he learns from it and lets it go, his body remains light, his practice deepens, and his future performance improves. The mind works in exactly the same way. To forgive yourself is to train the mind as the martial artist trains the body, with focus on the present, not imprisonment by the past. This discipline allows you to direct today with strength, clarity, and wisdom. And each time you choose this path, you remind yourself that while the past is unchangeable, the present remains entirely in your hands. Just as the body requires nourishment every day, the mind and heart also demand their own form of nourishment. This nourishment is not only found in food, rest, or physical exercise, but in the conscious act of renewal. Forgiveness is one of the deepest forms of this renewal. Consider for a moment, if you do not clean your living space for days, dust begins to gather. At first, it may seem harmless, almost invisible, but over time, the dust grows thick. It settles into every corner, and the environment becomes heavy, difficult to breathe in, unpleasant to live in. In the same way, when you do not practice daily forgiveness, guilt and regret accumulate quietly in the background of your mind. At first, you may not notice them, but soon they weigh you down, slowing your steps, clouding your judgment, and stealing the lightness of your being. Daily renewal through forgiveness is the act of clearing this dust. It ensures that the mind and heart remain open, fresh, and capable of moving freely. We often think of forgiveness as something reserved for the rare and serious mistakes in life. But true self-discipline lies in recognizing that forgiveness is needed for the small daily failures as well. Each day, we stumble in small ways. We forget to act with kindness when we had the chance. We waste time when we promised ourselves discipline. We allow distractions to pull us away from our purpose. These moments may feel insignificant, but they accumulate into a heavy burden if left unchecked. The same way a single drop of water does not seem powerful, but over time it can wear down even the hardest stone. Daily forgiveness prevents this erosion of spirit. It acknowledges the imperfection of each day while creating space for a new beginning. In this way, forgiveness becomes as essential as breathing. It is the reset button that allows us to rise each morning without being held captive by yesterday. There is a saying in traditional practice: the body is renewed by movement, the mind is renewed by stillness. But there is another dimension to this teaching. The heart is renewed by forgiveness. Stillness may clear your thoughts, movement may strengthen your body, but only forgiveness can soften and cleanse the heart. Without it, the heart grows rigid. It hardens against itself and in turn hardens against others. A rigid heart cannot bend, and therefore it breaks under pressure. But a heart that is renewed daily through forgiveness remains flexible, resilient, and alive. Imagine bamboo in the wind. It bends, it sways, but it does not snap. This is the strength that daily renewal offers. It is not the strength of being unbroken, but the strength of being able to bend without losing yourself. Every day, by forgiving yourself, you return to this flexible state, able to grow, able to adapt, and able to keep moving forward with lightness. To neglect this practice is to slowly allow heaviness to dominate your inner world. Think of a lake that is never refreshed with new water. Over time, it becomes stagnant. The surface loses its clarity. Algae forms, and what was once alive becomes dull and lifeless. Many people live with such a stagnant heart, carrying yesterday's mistakes into today and tomorrow, without realizing that they have the power to let them go. Daily renewal through forgiveness is like a fresh stream entering the lake. It restores movement, it restores clarity, it restores vitality. When you wake in the morning and choose to forgive yourself for yesterday's errors, you allow yourself to meet the new day with energy, instead of dragging behind the weight of the old one. This practice does not happen once in a lifetime or once in a year. It is an everyday discipline, as consistent as the rising of the sun. And the more faithfully you practice it, the lighter, freer, and clearer your path becomes. There is often a misunderstanding about forgiveness, especially self-forgiveness. Many people fear that if they forgive themselves too easily, they will become careless, irresponsible, or weak. They imagine that self-forgiveness is an escape from responsibility, a way to indulge the mind and avoid consequences. But this is not true. Self-forgiveness is not indulgence, it is discipline. It requires deep honesty with yourself, the courage to face your own flaws without denial, and the strength to take responsibility while refusing to drown in guilt. To indulge yourself is to avoid responsibility, but to forgive yourself is to carry responsibility in a healthier way. It is to say, yes, I made a mistake. Yes, I could have done better, but I will not waste my life punishing myself. Instead, I will learn, I will grow, and I will continue walking forward. This is not weakness, it is strength of the highest order. Discipline has always been about balance. In martial training, discipline is not about forcing the body until it breaks. It is about finding the balance between effort and recovery, between tension and relaxation. In the same way, self-forgiveness is about balancing awareness of your mistakes with the willingness to release them. Without awareness, forgiveness becomes shallow. Without release, awareness becomes destructive. The discipline of self-forgiveness is to hold both in harmony, to see clearly where you fell short, but to let go of the weight so that you can continue practicing, continue refining, continue growing. This is why self-forgiveness is not indulgence. It requires the discipline to be awake to your own actions and to make deliberate choices about how to proceed. If indulgence is the path of sleep, forgiveness is the path of awakening. Think of the craftsman shaping a piece of wood. If he strikes it too harshly, the wood splits. If he hesitates and does not strike at all, the shape never emerges. He must strike with precision, with care, with discipline. Self-forgiveness functions in the same way. If you are too harsh with yourself, you break your spirit and paralyze your growth. If you are too soft, avoiding responsibility, you never grow at all. The discipline lies in striking the right balance, firm in acknowledging the truth of your actions, yet compassionate enough to release yourself from endless punishment. This balance does not come easily. It must be cultivated daily. Just as a craftsman improves his skill with every piece of wood, you too improve your ability to forgive with every mistake you encounter. This is why forgiveness is a discipline. It is a skill to be practiced, refined, and strengthened over time. The discipline of self-forgiveness also demands consistency. It is not a one-time event, but a lifelong practice. Just as you cannot exercise once and expect lifelong health, you cannot forgive yourself once and expect to remain free forever. Each day brings new challenges, new errors, new moments of imperfection. Discipline means showing up each day, not only to train the body or quiet the mind, but to cleanse the heart as well. And it is in this consistency that the transformation occurs. Over time, the discipline of forgiveness reshapes the way you respond to failure. Instead of collapsing under guilt, you rise with awareness. Instead of hiding from your mistakes, you face them directly. Instead of becoming rigid, you become resilient. This is the mark of true discipline. Not that you never fall, but that each time you fall, you rise with greater strength, greater clarity, and greater compassion. Compassion is often spoken of as an outward quality, a kindness we show to the people around us. But if you look closely, you will see that true compassion begins with the relationship you have with yourself. If the inner voice is harsh, critical, and unforgiving, it becomes difficult to extend genuine kindness to others. The way you treat yourself is the foundation for how you treat the world. If you constantly attack yourself for your mistakes, you unknowingly train your mind to attack others when they fail. If you are unable to forgive yourself for your imperfections, you will struggle to forgive others for theirs. But when you cultivate compassion within, when you learn to soften toward your own wounds, to forgive your own errors, you create an inner environment that naturally radiates outward. The gentleness you offer yourself becomes the gentleness you can offer the world. Consider how this plays out in daily life. A person who carries guilt without self-forgiveness often becomes impatient with others. Their heart is heavy, and so their patience grows thin. Their unresolved inner struggle spills into the way they speak, the way they judge, and the way they respond to those around them. On the other hand, someone who has learned the discipline of forgiving themselves daily approaches others with a softer gaze. They recognize that just as they stumble, others stumble too. Just as they make mistakes, others make mistakes too. This recognition is not theoretical, it comes from lived experience. By forgiving yourself, you come to understand in your bones what it feels like to be fallible and yet worthy of compassion. And because you understand it inwardly, you no longer demand perfection outwardly. You can accept others as they are, without judgment that crushes or criticism that wounds. This principle can be seen in the practice of martial arts as well. A student who is harsh on himself for every misstep in training becomes tense, rigid, and unkind, both to himself and to his training partners. His energy spreads unease in the room, because the harshness within inevitably surfaces without. But a student who forgives himself when he makes errors, who sees mistakes as part of the journey rather than as signs of weakness, carries a different presence. He remains relaxed, he learns faster, and he is more supportive toward others. His compassion for himself allows him to create an environment where everyone feels safe to learn, to grow, and to make mistakes without fear. The dojo becomes lighter, not because mistakes have disappeared, but because forgiveness and compassion have taken their rightful place. What begins within one person spreads like a ripple through the entire group. In truth, this is the way compassion always works. It expands outward. When you practice compassion for yourself, you heal the relationship you have with your own being. This healing becomes visible in the way you speak, in the way you listen, and in the way you treat others. Compassion for yourself teaches you that being human means be imperfect, yet still being worthy of love, respect, and growth. And once you grasp this truth within, you naturally extend it outward. You stop expecting others to carry the impossible burden of perfection, and you start allowing them the space to be human as well. In this way, compassion becomes not just a personal practice, but a collective one. By learning to forgive yourself daily, you contribute to a more compassionate world, not through speeches or promises, but through the quiet example of how you live, how you act, and how you relate to those around you. Life is not a straight path. It is filled with detours, missteps, and moments where we fall short of who we wish to be. But these moments are not meant to chain us. They are meant to teach us. Forgiveness, especially self-forgiveness, is the key that unlocks this teaching. It reminds us that we are not bound to yesterday's mistakes, but are free to shape today's actions and tomorrow's growth. To forgive yourself daily is to understand that every sunrise is a gift, a chance to begin again. It is not weakness to release yourself from guilt. It is discipline. It takes strength to face your own reflection without judgment, to see your scars without shame, and to walk forward without dragging behind the weight of regret. This is the discipline of the warrior and the wisdom of the seeker, to renew the heart each day, to polish the mirror of the mind, and to move forward with clarity. And remember, the compassion you cultivate within becomes the compassion you extend to others. By softening your heart toward yourself, you soften your heart toward the world. By forgiving yourself daily, you not only free your own spirit, you create a space where others too can breathe, grow, and feel safe to be human. This is how inner discipline becomes outer harmony. So, learn to forgive yourself, not once, not occasionally, but daily. Let it become as natural as breathing, as steady as your heartbeat. For in the practice of daily forgiveness, you discover freedom, you discover resilience, and you discover the strength to walk your path with clarity, lightness, and compassion.